you overwhelmed with just about everything in your life right now? Me too, friends. Let's talk about it while I do these dishes. You know, I know that my channel is called Genuinely Being, and I genuinely don't want to do these dishes. And, you know, right now so much of my life is kind of overwhelming, right? I feel so overwhelmed in a plethora of things. And first I have to get my kids taquitos on the plate. Oh my goodness. Life, right? Like my partner's out working tonight. He's driving Uber for some extra money because our bus that I'm in right now, that we live in, is out. Unfinished. We paid a builder to do it, and the builder didn't come through on their end of the deal. And so now we're living an unfinished bus. Hey, Eli, buddy, do you want some sauce with your taquitos?
What kind of sauce is it? Yeah, what are you making, Mom? What do you all make?
I got you taquitos and some mozzarella sticks. Okay? Sound good?
Okay, that's okay.
All right. Let me go give these to the kids.
I'm having a
Okay, so overwhelm, right? Just demonstrated right there. You know, I'm sure you have so many things going on in your life, and overwhelm just... Please don't fall over. Overwhelm is just everywhere. We just closed down our YouTube channel after 5 years, our family channel that we had. You're kind of sitting in, oh my goodness, this overwhelm of, well, what are we supposed to do? Like, how do we break this down? Like, what do we do with the Instagram? What do we do with the Facebook? Like, what is all of this going to look like? What does your new channel look like? I think there's so many unknowns that we really didn't think about, which is also putting us into overwhelm. We moved to this new spot, okay? And so Kyle could be closer to Phoenix to work. We were staying about 2.5 hours away, camping off grid. We have to carry our own water, sewer, power. So we have to generate all of those things. We have to be completely self-sustainable. We have a 125-gallon freshwater tank. And then we have a 100-gallon black tank, which is where everything, all the waste goes. As you can imagine, that's a lot to think about, because when our tanks are full, like, we've got to have somewhere to dump this. We haven't found anywhere around here to be able to dump, which is another overwhelming thing for me. And so when I am overwhelmed, something I really like to do is do something kind of simple, like doing these dishes. Like, I really didn't want to do them because today's the first day of my period too, so there's that. You know what I'm talking about. It's just so many emotions and a whole bunch of things, and I just thought it was really cool that you came over to hang out with me and kind of talk about overwhelm. And, you know, I'm going to share maybe a couple stories of my life on the road and you know, overwhelming situations that somehow we got out of. And, you know, we've been able to get out of every, like, hard situation we've ever had. So I have this thing that I say to myself whenever I'm in a hard or overwhelming situation. I say, we have made it through every hard thing we've ever done, and the chances are high we're going to make it through this one too. That has gotten me out of a lot of sticky situations. Oh my gosh. There was this one time, you know, little bites of dishes at a time. There was this one time we were in Idlewild, California. And if you've ever been to Idlewild, California, it is up a mountain. It is up a mountain. And we are in a 40-year-old bus, right? And this 40-year-old bus, this big blue bus, is a 5-speed double clutch manual transmission. As you can imagine, like, it cannot tow our Jeep Wrangler behind us. So I am in the Jeep driving behind. We were like 2 months into bus life at this point. Yeah, 2 months into bus life. We get up this mountain. There was like switchbacks, and it said it wasn't recommended for anything above 40 feet. And you know what? It wasn't lying. When there are those signs, just listen to them. We were 40 feet, the bus exactly. So we did it. Would we do it again? I don't know. I don't know if we would make that choice 2 times, because that was scary. That was treacherous and scary. So we make it to the 1,000 trails that we had a reservation for. And it was my first time like really picking out a campsite. So talk about like overwhelm. So this was before we even started couples therapy. And so our communication, and Kyle's coming fresh out of having, not really out of having, he was in one of the worst depressions of his entire life. And we're trying to live 2 months on the road. And as you can imagine, that was really hard. Hard. So to say communication skills were not exactly lovely. So we get to this park, and it's got like 2 or 3 levels. I set out in the Jeep, and I'm going up to the 2nd level of this park, and I find just this miraculous camping spot. The angels themselves came down from the heavens and started singing. That's how beautiful this spot was. The really great part is it was right across the street from the pool. And by the street, I mean like the little tiny campground road. There wasn't like a super close site to us. It was going to be miraculous. So, issue at hand was if said 40-year-old bus was going to make it up this hill. Well, Kyle thought that he would give it the good old college try, right? So Kyle gets ready, gets his foot right on the gas pedal, and just floors it to try and get up this hill. Well, the issue is that the hill is pretty steep, and there's a curve right before the hill. So trying to get up speed is difficult because you're coming off another hill. When you're in a Jeep Wrangler, it's much easier to get up hills. 40-year-old bus? Nay, not as simple, my friends. Needless to say, Kyle has to roll back down this hill. And he can't just like roll back down it. He has to hold the air brakes pretty much the whole time, because if he just lets it go, there's a chance he's going to fall off the edge and go into a campsite down below. So he has to push the brake down the whole time, which then lets out all of the air in the brakes. And these brakes need air to work. And by the time he gets down the base of the hill, what he's got to do is let it air back up. So it's another 15 minutes. He is now blocking the road, so nobody can get up and down this hill. So as we're sitting there, you know, we're causing quite the spectacle. And people come out, because it's about 4:45, you know, 5 o'clock somewhere. They come out with their Bud Lights, and they take their vintage lawn chair, and they just crack it open and set it down. So poor Kyle, being a 2-month into bus life driver, he has to now make it up this hill while a ton of people are watching him. Bless his heart. Bless his heart. So, 2nd attempt. It's ready. It's aired up. He's going to give it another try. You know what? He just floors it, gets up there. And I'm in the Jeep above, and I'm trying to point him in the spot, right? Well, here's the thing. When you're in a Jeep above, you don't want to stop on the top of the hill, because then the bus that hasn't made it up the hill can't come fully up. So on attempt number 2, you know, that was thwarted by me. So there was steam coming from Kyle's ears as he's rolling back down the hill. So the overwhelm for me of like, oh gosh, my husband's pissed. He's already depressed. Like, this is not going to be a good night. And then we can't get up the hill. So by the third time, this man, somehow he has figured out how to energetically get this bus up the hill, because he does, backs up into the campsite and makes it. Thank goodness, right? What I want to tell you about is what I did to pull myself out of it in that moment. There was a sponge. Where did the sponge go? Didn't I have this? Where did I put the sponge? Do you do this? Do you lose things? Do you lose things? I know, sometimes it's overwhelm brain, right? Oh, it's right here. Where was I at? This place that we were parked at, I really didn't understand its beauty until we had this, you know, big thing of overwhelm and craziness happen. Once we get settled, we get parked, we get hooked up. I go ahead and leave him to do that, and I go walk past the pool, and through the trees, there's like this little clearing, and you could see so much of the mountain and the stone rocks and like these California, I'm gonna say they were California trees, and they were just beautiful. That's the first time that I'd ever like really immersed myself in them. And I just sat there and I breathed and I soaked in the world around me. And like, that was one of my fondest and first memories of finding peace on the road in like overwhelm, you know. And like, as soon as I walked off and took that moment, I was able to breathe, and like, that felt so good. So I don't know, if you want to try it this week, let me know how it works for you. Whenever you're in a moment of overwhelm, go find a tree. Go like stand in the trees and just look at them. Even if your view is, you know, a business complex and you only have a courtyard, like even go, what I have found helpful in cities, say I get like a panic attack and I'm overwhelmed in a city we're visiting, there's got to be a planter or some sidewalk area with a tree on it. And so I always go find the trees and I just go stand by them and I look at their leaves and I look at their branches, and sometimes there's like little birds in them. And then I'll look at the birds, and you know, it just kind of has me focus on the present moment, so I'm not like spiraling out of control with overwhelm. Oh my goodness, overwhelm it's tough. The first thing I like to do is breathe, to just kind of sit and simply be for a second. And because like as soon as you do that deep exhale, tell me you know. You, like right here just goes, like just releases and feels oh so good. And when I was in a traditional life, you know, when I had my grooming salon, if you don't know, I was a groomer for 15 years before we moved into the bus. And I learned a lot, and that's what I was doing before we launched into the bus. And I was remembering back so stinking overwhelmed, because like I would get up, and tell me if this sounds like you, I would get up at 4:30 in the morning because I had to go work out. And then by 6:30, I was in my salon until probably 6:30 that night. I would usually eat lunch probably standing up because it was a very, very busy salon and we were booked every day. Super, super grateful that I was booked every day. Just exhausting. It wasn't just me and my salon. You know, my husband was staying home at the time, and the issue was that he was so depressed. He was farming with his dad before that, and it just wasn't for him. The salon was booming and wonderful, but the more successful the salon was, just the more my marriage was crumbling. Because I would get in, and then one of our oldest, Ben, he would have baseball 3 nights a week. So Kyle would be shuttling him back and forth to baseball. Molly, our middle, would have art. And so she would be shuttled back and forth. There's so many things going on. They had tutoring. 2 of them had tutoring 2 nights a week. And it was like this never-ending, ridiculous schedule. Oh my goodness. All I was doing was working, and then a taxi driver. And then we would have to get, the puppies are right. Hey, now, shh. Wheezy, I said that if you didn't want to go in there with the boys, you were going to have to make good choices. This is not making good choices. Back then, coping mechanisms were not a thing. I had no idea what a coping mechanism was, how to use it. My anger, oh, there we go. You tell me about you. My, anxiety and overwhelm and big, emotions would present itself as anger. And I would lash out at the smallest things.
Could you give me a napkin?
Yeah. Oh, is it your nose again? Okay. Can we shut these airs off for a little bit?
Yeah.
Actually, I can turn the generator on. What was I talking about?
You're talking about the camera.
I know.
The anger, your anger.
Oh, thank you. You're a goat, Moles.
I know. That's my phone avatar.
You're incredible. You're incredible. My big emotions of fear and worry and blame and shame and resentment, right? Because I felt like my husband wasn't pulling his weight. I didn't have the capacity to love him or know how to love him. So I was just overwhelmed with all the things. And looking back on myself, from now, it's so different in our marriage. It's so different in our life and how we treat each other and how we talk to each other, and we think of each other's needs and then we just do them, and we work as a team, and communication has improved. And I really think it's because when we're overwhelmed, we manage our individual selves now instead of going straight to anger. So we have to conserve water because we're not on a whole lot of it. So I've got to do these dishes super quick. So it is definitely not as thorough as I normally would be when we're plugged up to water. Something that really, really supercharged being able to handle the overwhelm is moving into the bus, because every day is a new thing. Even now, we aren't exactly sure when we're leaving Phoenix. We're here, but we don't know when we're leaving because we're kind of waiting for our property in New Mexico to defrost. So we're taking it completely day by day. Our life that went from scheduled and planned and always on time, and all of that chaoticness that we were so miserable in. We had no idea, but looking back, we were so freaking miserable. Nobody was happy. And now to we just roll with the punches, and okay, this happened, okay, cool. Well, how do we navigate around it? It's not like we fight anything anymore. We know that there's gonna be overwhelming moments, right? And we just take them as they come. And I really think we wouldn't have learned that without bus life. This life is nothing but one big overwhelm if you let it. Right now, the bus is just, living in it half finished isn't exactly ideal. And it's where we're at. We're just not fighting it. We're making the best of it. And I think just making the best of things is a way that I've found to really keep my overwhelm down. So we went to, we went to a park the other night, right? This park is so beautiful, and it has this gorgeous lake around it. There's tons of green space, and it's probably about 8:30-ish, I would say. And 7:30. We're walking around the lake, and we took Eli with us. And I'm just seeing all the people rushing in from soccer and rushing out, and parents picking up kids, and it's so wild. That used to be our life, and then to come back into it, you know, looking very differently. Nothing against it. If that is your life, I love that for you. We discovered that it wasn't for us. And so I'm super grateful that we got that opportunity to like take a peek back into that, because I saw that overwhelm on so many people's faces, like, okay, now that we're done with this, we gotta go home and cook dinner. And how hard is that to like have to then go and cook dinner because you're exhausted? Actually, I'm just gonna put you right here. A lot of overwhelm, I like to kind of just pick out little bites at a time to do. These dishes, they're taking me a little bit longer to do, but I'm taking small bites out of them. A little bit earlier I washed some, then I came back and washed a little, moving my energy, because at the end of the day, you're doing your best. I'm on my period and I'm like crying and trying to get things done. I had a YouTube class today and so many things are going on. Kyle's working. I'm mom, you know, parent in charge right now. So there's so much overwhelm going on. And I was getting on to myself earlier. Let me know if you do this, because I made a to-do list this morning. I'm like, okay, I've got this to-do list I want to do for the next couple of days. And that was my first mistake, because as soon as I make this gigantic list, I'm like, oh, this is a lot of stuff. Like, how is my ADHD brain gonna get all of this stuff done? Immediately, the stinking overwhelm sits in. I'm in my meeting and I can't get this Discord thing figured out. And Kyle's, you know, doing Uber and I can't call him. And it's like, the one thing that I did to just chill me out was I took a breath. I went, and the dust began to settle. You know, like a snow globe, you know when you travel somewhere and you have like the snow globes in the gift shop? People love to use those as like those meditative things to help you calm down. So like as the snow is falling, you're imagining like getting calm. So as your exhale, I like to imagine like the little snow is all the dust settling. And today, like, I felt it was very important to take some me time, because my body was like, you're not gonna get this entire to-do list done. So I decided to pick just a couple definite things I could for sure do. And so the dishes were one of them. One's gonna be a physical activity for me, and then one may be like a mental activity for me. I like to do my meditation and put it on like the Native American flutes music, and I like to just kind of sit there and just listen to the sounds and let it just really relax me and align me. So I did do that today. I wanted to make sure that I did 10-15 minutes of that. And what I'm finding, because before I would have said this, I would have said, I don't have time to do what I have to do on my to-do list. So how am I going to find time to fit in the 15 minutes? And you know what I did? I just started taking the 15 minutes. I didn't ask myself if I had time. I created the time. I just did it. Because what I found was when I cared for myself, when I took that small 5, 10, 15 minutes to give me a small dose of care, I was able to have a clear head and have some clarity and be like, oh, okay, this isn't so bad. All right, we can tackle this one bite at a time. You know, coming from an abusive home, you know, as a kid, verbally abusive, sometimes physically, I think I was always in chaos and overwhelm, and so I kind of just felt at home at it, and then that kind of became the normal, this kind of being comfortable in the chaos, and then, but not in a good way, like not in a good, comfortable way. I don't know if you've ever read the book by Eckhart Tolle, Awakening to Your Life's Purpose. I highly recommend it. download it. He reads it in his, if you like audiobooks, he reads it in his own voice. I read it and it really, really changed so much of my life. But he talks about your pain body and how your pain body wants to be connected to other people's pain bodies. And so that's basically a trigger, right? If someone is lashing out, you see them within yourself, right? Your pain bodies are seeing each other because you both have something in common there. Then you get triggered and then you lash out and then their pain body lashes out because in a weird way, your pain body wants you to be miserable. Your pain body wants you to be upset and mad and resentful and grumpy because then it grows and grows and grows and grows and grows. And then our pain body's in the driver's seat and then we're making horrible, awful comments on Facebook and saying mean things to our loved ones and our neighbors. And so highly recommend this book. It is very life-changing if you're ready for it. You know, I really have to keep my pain body in check, especially doing this, making videos and being so vulnerable and writing these posts, because through learning my emotions and through like sitting in the overwhelm and getting comfortable in the uncomfortable, I've really been able to manage my emotions any time that I need to. If there's a moment that I get super stressed and overwhelmed and I don't have clarity on a situation, I know that I can take a little breath, you know, one deep cleansing inhale and exhale, and it gets me back to a grounded spot. Is that something that I learned overnight? Absolutely not. You know, it comes from repetition. It comes from, yeah, buddy. It comes from choosing. I don't want to give him a soapy napkin. You're welcome. So it comes from, you know, choosing to take the breath. We know these tools are here, right? The difficult part of it all is choosing them in the trigger. You know, like as soon as you feel that pain body rise, those big emotions rise, choosing to walk away or to breathe, like that's been really paramount with me and Kyle. Like husbands and wives, partners, they have moments where neither one of them are their best self and their pain bodies are reacting together. And so me and Kyle live together 24/7. Living together this long, like there's going to be some fights, there's going to be some struggles, there's going to be some big emotions had by all. We've learned like what each other looks like in overwhelm. My overwhelm feels, I start to get really short and I start to get really snippy and I start to get angry, like at the littlest things, at the simplest things. And this is when I'm overwhelmed and I can't understand something. Walking into the hard, you know, that's like walking into fire. And that's a tough thing. Walking into fire, like loving me when it's difficult, loving me when it's not easy. And the same for Kyle. When he is overwhelmed, he puts off this energy that is just no bueno. It's an energy that he had when he's really depressed. And so I know that he needs to go move his body and he needs to go take a walk. So either he'll signal it, or if he's in too deep, I'll be like, hey, go take a walk. I need you to get out. I need you to go walk. And that's his signal that, okay, my emotions are getting really big and I need to rein them back in. So communicating with my partner has been really huge in like both of our overwhelms. When we first started therapy, it was not this way at all. And so finding a couples therapist was like really huge for us, for sure. Overwhelm is hard no matter where you are. I think this life has given me a lot of opportunities to be able to learn how to flow. You know, it's like getting the reps in. It's repetition. When we were traveling we were moving every few days. And we're moving every day. We were camping in the van in the Pacific Northwest. That's a lot of movement, and that's really exhausting and overwhelming at times. And it gave me like really good opportunity to be able to work on just growing with the flow instead of swimming upstream. Looking good. Looking good. I'm really grateful that you came over today and helped me get these dishes done when we chatted about Overwhelm. I would love for you to share, if you feel vulnerable and comfortable in the comments, tell me about your overwhelming journey and your journey with Overwhelm, the emotion, because man, that emotion is just, overwhelm is tough because you feel like you're kind of floating in midair, but like all these things around you have to get so much done, and it's like, where do I even start? So I take small bites at a time, and you know what? I'm gonna have the kitchen all done. It's gonna look really good. Kyle's been putting in a long shift driving Uber, and so I know when he comes home, he's gonna feel so great because the bus is going to be moderately clean, and it's gonna be a good space for all of us. Plus, tomorrow is Molly's birthday. And so we're pretty excited. We're gonna go out on the town and have a wonderful time with her. Molly, where did you decide where you wanted to eat?
Olive Garden for lunch.
Olive Garden. Who loves Olive Garden? Who loves Olive Garden? Love me some Olive Garden. Well, thank you so much for spending a little bit of your precious time in my inner world with me. And I just want to thank you for being here and being you. And I'll talk soon.